So, hey everyone, I just want to say thank you again for being here. So basically what we're here to do is a recital, and you all know that. And so we're going to do that, and after we're going to donate to 4 organizations, and we'll go over which organizations those are once we get to that point. But and then after that, the most important to me part of this event is the talk back at the end, which will be led by Sherry Tucker. Thank you so much for doing that. She is with the KU American Studies program, and she's wonderful. She's written a lot about race, power, and music, and she definitely has a lot of knowledge on these topics that we're going to be discussing. And yeah, so basically what we will discuss in the talkback is our purpose in this project and ways that we can work as students and alumni to work towards more inclusive and diverse world of music and fine arts. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Thank you so much. And we'll just go ahead and get started with the recital. We're just gonna go down the program, and I'm first, so. Hello everyone. The piece I will be singing is called Night by Florence B. Price. Poetry is by Louise C. Wallace, and I'm going to read that for you right now. Night comes, a Madonna clad in scented blue, rose red her mouth and deep her eyes. She lights her stars and turns to where, beneath her silver lamp, the moon. Upon a couch of shadow lies a dreamy child, the wearied day. So these words to me are so beautiful, and the song is beautiful in general. And what I think of when I sing and read this is that this Madonna that is being sung about, she is looking out the window and looking at the moon and the stars and reflecting on all the beauty that there is in life, regardless of what kind of day she's had. And what I think behind this is that since this song is so beautiful, and then at the end the final words are the wearied day, that makes me think that the meaning is just that there's always beauty in everything. No matter how hard your day is, no matter how hard any situation is, there's always beauty there, and there's always a way to find that. We just have to keep pushing to find it and just keep on living, and you will find the beauty in everything. And I just really like that message, and I wanted to sing the song because of it. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
beautiful, Tori.
Thank you. And in case you don't have the program pulled up, that was Night by Florence Price.
The program should be in the comments as well if anyone wants to follow along.
Who is next? Let's see. Clara Boyd is next.
Hello.
Clara!
Me. Sorry, I was coming home from something and yeah, okay. I have to share the sound, right? Yes. Okay. Play or
Hey, Clara!
Beautiful, Clara.
Beautiful.
yeah.
Next will be Grace.
Okay, this is For You There Is No Song by Leslie Adams. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, let me know if you can hear it. For you there is no song, only the shaking of the voice that meant to sing the song of the strong voice breaking.
Strength in my hand appears a pen, and yours broken. There are ink and tears on the page. I've spoken.
Beautiful. Next is Neil.
Hello, my name is Neil Long, and I will be singing To My Little Son by Florence Price, with words by Julia Johnson Davis. In your face I sometimes see shadows of the man to be, and eager dream of what my son shall be. Dream of what my son will be. In 20 years and one. When you are to manhood grown, and all your manhood ways are known, then shall I wistful try to trace the child you once were in your face.
Lovely, Neil.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
Next is Alyssa.
I don't wanna think about nothing, just watching you dancing. Feel like the beginning of something. In the end, all I wanna do is just fall in. I don't wanna think about nothing. Everybody got so much to say. Every time we push it away, every day a new reason to stay. 'Cause we got a bigger love, won't ever give it up. We got a one-way ticket, love. We ain't going no place but up. Nothing can stop this, no one can top us. We got a bigger love. Oh yeah, I don't wanna think about nothing. The world feels like it's crumbling. Every day another new something. But in wanna think about loving. We got a bigger love. Won't ever give it up. We got a one-way ticket, love. We ain't going no place but up. Nothing can stop this. No one can top us. We got a bigger love. Oh yeah. We got a bigger love. Won't ever give it up. We got a one-way ticket, love. We ain't going no place but up. Nothing can stop this. No one can top us. We got a bigger love. Oh yeah. Won't ever give it up. We got a one-way ticket, love. We ain't going no place but up. Nothing can stop this. No one can top us. 'Cause we got a bigger love. Oh yeah. Won't ever give it up. Oh yeah. We got a one-way ticket, love. We ain't going no place but up. Nothing can stop this. No one can top us. We got a bigger love.
Oh, nice. That
Beautiful.
was so professional.
That's awesome. Well, I'm next, I believe. I will be singing, can everyone hear me? I'll be singing Home from the Wiz, composed by Charlie Smalls and words by William F. Brown. If you don't know, The Wiz is a legendary musical, film adaptation, many revivals. It's a retelling of The Wizard of Oz that uniquely defined Black culture and shaped the framework of the musical genre. So I hope you enjoy.
Home. When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home. I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing. Wind that makes the tall trees bend into leaning. Suddenly the snowflakes that fall have a meaning, sprinkling the sea makes it all so clean. Maybe there's a chance for me to go back now that I have some direction. It would sure be nice to be back home where there's love and affection. And just maybe I can convince time to slow up, giving me enough time in my life to grow up. Time, be my friend. Let me start again. But suddenly my world's gone and changed its face, but I know where I'm going. I have had my mind spun around in space, and yet I've watched it growing. Oh, if you're listening, God, please don't make it hard to know if we should believe the things that we see. Tell us, should we run away, or should we try and stay? Or would it be better just to let things be? Living here in this brand new world might be a fantasy, but it's taught me to love, so it's real, must look inside our hearts to find a world full of love, like yours, like mine, like home.
Thank you all so much.
Right on, Jacob.
Apologies for the blurry video.
It's okay. All right, I think I'm next. Yeah. So I am doing Bring It On Home to Me by Sam Cooke, which is a rewriting or reworking of Charles Brown's 1959 single, I Want to Go Home. And the piano is done by my friend Zane Burden, and the harmony is by my friend Sol Sanchez.
That was awesome. That was a really cool song.
Amazing.
I think I'm next. My name is Jessica Finley Yang, and I'm going to be playing for you a piece by Dr. Hale Stork, and I actually prepared a little bit of something to tell you about him. I hope that's okay. He is currently a professor of music at Old Dominion University in Virginia, and his recent works include Still Holding On, which is an orchestral work commissioned and premiered by the LA Philharmonic. He has composed 3 full symphonies and is currently working on his 4th symphony. And he's also recently started composing a piece called A Knee on a Neck for chorus and orchestra, which will be a tribute to George Floyd. He's also written an opera called Rise for Freedom, an opera about the Underground Railroad, premiered in the fall of 2007 by the Cincinnati Opera Company. He wrote the piece I'm about to play in 1996, and it has 4 movements. I'll be performing the 3rd movement, which is the slow movement. And I just wanted to read a little, it's not really a very long quote, but Hale Stork describes his own music as always lyrical, tonal, narrative, dramatic, and propulsive. And I think that's a really apt description of this piece I'm about to play. So I hope you enjoy the 3rd movement, Lento e teneramente from Bassoon Set.
That was beautiful.
Beautiful.
Wow.
All right, I think it's my turn. Okay. I'm Allison Lewis. I graduated in 2013 in vocal performance. And I just want to say a quick thank you to Tori and everyone who put this together. I think it's so amazing that we see this initiative from students, because I think it really brings attention to the fact that there is a desire and a thirst for this music that has been historically overlooked in general. And thank you to Neil for volunteering his time to do so much accompaniment. And like Jessica, I'm so glad she said a couple little things about her piece. I love Hale Stork, like, yes. So I will be singing today Death of an Old Seaman, which is written by Cecil Cohen with words by Langston Hughes. He put to music a lot of poets from that time. And so he was born in Chicago in 1894. And I think it's always important to sort of try to have an understanding of Black composers specifically, because to me, I don't think you can have a full understanding of America and American history. Without knowing your Black history, you can't know your Black history if you're not doing the listening as well. So he was, like I said, he was born in Chicago, which during that time, a lot of Black families were basically fleeing from the South due to the amount of violence happening at that time, post-Civil War, maybe like 30 years after Civil War. He went on to go ahead and he attended Fisk, and then he went and ended up teaching at Howard. And I had to do some serious digging, but I found an old student newspaper from Howard that said that this piece was actually performed for Franklin Roosevelt on March 3rd, 1937, with Dr. Cohen doing the accompaniment. So yeah, that being said, we'll go ahead and get into it here.
We buried him high on a windy hill, but his soul went out to sea. I know, for I heard when all was still, his sea soul say to me. Put no tombstone at my head, for here I do not make my bed. Strew no flowers on my grave. I've gone back to the wind and wave. Weep not, weep not, weep not for me, for I am happy,
Beautiful.
Awesome. Okay, so am I next? Is that awesome?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I am Lauren, and I just recently graduated from the percussion studio at KU, and I am in a duo with my friend Lewis, who lives in Nebraska right now, and we learned a piece by a composer named Jonathan Scales for 2 steel pans, and in general, I think the steel pan is a really amazing instrument. It came out of Trinidad and Tobago after like years of hardship and, you know, really amazing circumstances, and I just think it symbolizes such a amazing thing for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm really excited about what Jonathan is doing with the instrument and just bringing it to America. And he's currently in New York. He's awesome. So yeah, this piece hasn't really been played very much, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So this is The Questions Unanswerable by Jonathan Scales. Thank you. And thank you, Tori, for putting this together. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, Lauren. That was amazing. Wow. That was like mesmerizing. Next.
Hey, hello. My name is Lauren as well. Lauren, that was very beautiful. So I'm sure all of you know Nina Simone. I will be singing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. This is known as a civil rights anthem in the 60s. And when you listen to the lyrics, I encourage you to listen closely because it'll tell you why. Allison's gonna play it for me because my internet's bad. Thanks, Allison.
Allison, we're not getting any audio right now.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say. Say them loud, say them clear, for the whole wide world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the parts that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree every man should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things that I can do, though I'm way overdue. I'll be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I soar through the song and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know, yeah, I'd sing, 'cause I know, yeah, 'cause I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free.
Yay. Love that.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I love that guitar.
Okay, I think I'm next. Lauren, that was beautiful. I just wanted to thank all of the students and alumni that put this together. This past week, I've been doing my own research on what music is out there by African American composers. And I think that this recital is so important because I think that there is a big misunderstanding out there that African American music is either there isn't enough of it out there or if it's inaccessible. So clearly, everyone did their research and we're proving that it is accessible and that it should be performed and that it does bring happiness. So I really hope that the professors that are watching this Zoom really take that into account and start doing their own research and giving this repertoire to their own students. I think that's really important. I'm singing Grief by William Grant Still, text by Leroy V. Brandt. William Grant Still composed almost 200 works, including 5 symphonies, 9 operas, many art songs, chamber music, and solo instrumental music. He studied with George Whitefield Chadwick and Edgar Varese. He was kind of the king of the firsts. He was the first African-American composer to have a symphony performed by a major orchestra, which was his Afro-American Symphony by the Rochester Philharmonic. He was the first African-American to conduct a major orchestra, which was the LA Philharmonic. And he was the first African-American to have his opera, Troubled Island, performed by a major opera company, which was New York City Opera. I also wanted to thank Neil for the accompaniment he provided to a lot of the singers. So let's see if I can figure this out. Thank you.
Awesome. I think we have one more. Christian.
Yeah. Hi. So I will be performing Misty with music by Errol Garner, lyrics later by Johnny Mathis, and I also did this little arrangement. So let me share my screen before I play it. Getting a little ahead of myself here. I didn't do as much research as a lot of you. So that's about all I can tell you, other than it's a jazz standard.
as helpless as a kitten up a tree, and I feel like I'm clinging to a cloud I can't understand. I get misty just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins begin to play. Or it might be the sound of your hello, this music I hear. I get misty whenever you're near. Don't you know that you're leading me on? And that's just what I want you to do. Can't you see that I'm hopelessly lost? That's why I'm following you. On my own, as I wander through this wonderland alone, never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove. I'm too misty and too much in love.
Wow, nice.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Wow, great job, everyone. That was a beautiful recital. Wow.
Such a great way
So
to
many-
end it too, Christian.
Yeah. Great ending, yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. So many amazing composers and pieces. Just wonderful, really. If anyone else has something else to say about their piece that they maybe didn't say before, if you want to talk about that now, that'd be cool. I wanted to say one thing about mine. My piece, I learned it was actually the first solo piece that I learned by a Black composer, and that was my junior year of college. And that was about a year ago, from maybe a little more over a year. And the poetry to me is symbolic of just beauty that you can find beauty in everything. And the poet Louise C. Wallace really he ends the poem with the words "the weary day," and when I read the poem, I think the whole poem is beautiful, and then it ends with this sad little phrase, "the weary day." But the meaning behind it to me is just that there's always beauty in everything, and there's always a way to find that beauty. We just have to keep living, and that's the way to find the beauty in everything.
It was absolutely beautiful the way you sang it too. You could hear how you were presenting it with the way you understood the song. It's gorgeous.
Love that song.
I think I have the responsibility of now pulling everyone together to announce how we're going to try and do donations. So we have gathered a few organizations together as a group that we're trying to focus on, but of course we're not limiting to it. If you find yourself able to contribute to the following organizations, it would be greatly appreciated. So we have Equal Justice Initiative, which works with communities that have been marginalized, poverty, and discouraged by unequal treatment. We have Color of Change, and that is a progressive nonprofit civil rights advocacy organization. We also have KC Bail Fund to provide bail for the people without resources who are currently awaiting trial, and this will give them a higher chance of a positive outcome in their case. And we also have American Civil Liberties Union, who will act with us to end police brutality, demand racial justice, and defend our right to protest. And your donation there will fuel their legal battles. So from these four, we have their links posted in the chat below. And also, of course, feel free to donate and help and contribute in any way possible. Thank you.
So are we
Thanks, Jacob.
taking a few minutes to do that, or are we going right into the talk back? Okay.
So I just posted the links to the donation sites. And if there are any other organizations that people know of that would be relevant for this, feel free to add in more links. That would be awesome to share more resources. And then also, if you feel comfortable sending a screenshot of your receipt, if you do donate, you can send it to me or anyone else in this group so that we can add up an accurate total of how much we raised in this event. But if you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's totally fine too. So we'll just take a couple minutes to do that, and you can also check out the websites too. There's a lot of information on those organizations and what they do. Thanks, Jessica.
We should play some Jeopardy music while we do this.
Cue it up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It does feel a little quiet.
Yeah, here, I got it. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
That's perfect.
I was gonna play Julio Cesare, but I decided that might not be as entertaining.
Listen, watching Jeopardy during quarantine has been one of my favorite things. So don't stop the Jeopardy theme, please.
Absolutely.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, and Hulu, I think, too.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Great. That was fantastic. And
Yay.
that was the Mount Royal Orchestra, if anyone was curious.
Oh, good to know. Oh.
Alrighty.
Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and move on. So the next part is for students and alumni to participate in. If you're a faculty member and you're here and you want to stay and listen and observe, you're welcome to, or you can head out now. Either way works. But yeah, we'll also have this part recorded as well to reflect back on later. So yeah, I'll give it over to you, Dr. Tucker. Oh, I think you're muted. There we go.
I was so ready to unmute myself. I think I did everything backwards. It is such an honor to be invited to facilitate the talk back. Thank you so much, and thank you for this just incredibly moving, beautiful, well-researched, beautifully performed and prepared and programmed recital. I'm just blown away. I mean, it was just outstanding. So I think I would like to maybe for the first question is to ask you, some of you have already talked about this, but for if you haven't yet talked about it, and maybe we can get into some layers here, is why is it important to learn and perform music by Black composers? And to that, I would also ask, why is it important now? You performed works by composers from many different time periods, many different aesthetics and styles. And I would love to hear how the importance of learning and performing the music connects to the importance of fundraising in this moment during a crisis, in a major racial justice movement.
That's a really good question. What I'm thinking, I think it's just one problem that reflects the whole education system in general, but in music education, we're just not taught music by Black composers not nearly as much as other white composers, and there's a big problem with that. Like how I said earlier, the first time I ever learned a solo song by a Black composer was my junior year of college. I was 19 or 20. That's a long time to go without learning a song. And I mean, I took voice lessons for years before that, so it's like, why wasn't I learning this kind of music before? If you want to answer the question, feel free to just hop in, or you can type either way.
Yeah, I don't know how, this is one of these Zoom things, and we're a rather big Hollywood Squares configuration here. But if you want to raise your hand, I could call on you, or if you just feel, you're musicians, you can listen and feel time into.
Yeah.
I'd like to answer this question if I can. I think it's really important to realize for everyone who's been kind of in the dark about this that there are Black geniuses and Black artists that are producing amazing, amazing work. And if you aren't listening to it, you're missing out. Like, I think everyone in classical music, and I mean, most of you here seem to be vocalists, but I play in an orchestra, and our audiences just don't know. They're not aware. And so bringing awareness and shedding light on the fact that, yes, there are Black geniuses and Black composers and Black singers and artists, and of all the different areas of art is so important. And for people who are Black or people of color who attend symphonies, who attend operas, to see themselves on the stage is also a huge part of their career. If they're aspiring artists at all, to see yourself, to see someone who looks like you on the stage where you want to be is empowering. And yeah.
Oh, you raised a lot of really important points there. Yeah, Allison.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And I think I'll go ahead and talk into the point that you said about why now and why in this time with post George Floyd. And I think there is a lot of confusion specifically about what does classical music have to do with George Floyd? Like, why does this matter? How is this violent? How is excluding Black composers and Black music explicitly a violent act? And it truly is, honestly, when we're thinking about some of these things like the hierarchy of race and how genre itself is connected to that explicitly. If we do not include Black composers within classical music, it is not only erasing the fact that the American music tradition, classical music tradition, would not exist, period, without Black people. It continues the continuous lifting up of white composers. And so if you're wondering if it's being lifted up, what is it being lifted up over? So if we're always thinking about, okay, this is what classical music is, it's all white, and Black music is only what we think of it as in certain genres, then we're continuing this idea that one is inferior and one is constantly, or one is superior and one is constantly inferior. So then we turn around and we start looking at how Black people are treated daily. Things like music and culture and language and sound all contribute to our ideas of who is who matters, whose life matters, and whose life does not. So I think now is a unique time, especially within the classical music world. I know the New York Times has put out about, you know, 1 million different articles right now, which is interesting because they have quite a history of being a problem in this specifically. But so I think it's not just, it's just music. You know, there's very explicit ties to violence, and how are we as a community and as a university either contributing or lessening that, because all policies are either racist or anti-racist. There is no race neutral place that you can be in when we're talking about this fight. So yeah.
Thank you. I think that both Jessica and Allison raise really a lot of important points there. And I just wanted to highlight one thing that I think is really important, which is the way that who is human and how is hierarchy, you know, how human hierarchy is constructed happens a lot through music. And it happens a lot through who's considered a genius and who isn't. And so those ways of, I think your arguments are really strong in that it makes it totally relevant to perform a full range of Black composing in a program, and how that connects to the moment. It connects to the social construction of race and whose bodies matter, whose lives matter. Would anyone else like to address that question? Does anyone have it? Maybe yes, Sarah.
Hi, I didn't sing today in the recital. I had I'd chosen a piece and worked on it, but I didn't feel like it was, you know, like ready to put out there and to the standard that I think you guys all showed today, which was like, you know, really, really amazing and wonderful. But I just wanted to add in something. I picked a pop song, and I found it just really astounding to me, like how many like vocal things that apply so much to classical music were also that I was learning to do through this pop song, because I was doing riffs and things, and I took it to my voice teacher, and she was teaching me how to do these riffs, and she said, this is the same way that you would learn like coloratura and like grace notes and all those things, like you should be doing that the same way. And I was like, you know, it just really was like this wow moment for me that I didn't realize that you could learn that kind of thing from a pop song. And I feel like that's really important, and going off of that we've kind of taken, especially like when you think about the 24 Italian, like you think of those for singers, that like those are the songs you have to learn. Like if you want to learn to sing, like you do the 24 Italian, because that's what they're for, and you know that's the way that you learn to do all these vocal things. And the truth is that there are so many other songs and opportunities and ways to learn those vocal techniques, and new vocal techniques that were not known by or used by white people and white composers, because you know it's just something they never thought of, that are maybe very well accepted and known in African traditional singing and stuff, and things that has been adopted into pop music in a way that it hasn't been adopted into classical music. And I think that's a huge flaw in classical music, is its lack of ability to change and to accept change and to accept new techniques and new ways to do things. That if you're going to do new stuff, it has to be like atonal, and it has to be this, and not, you know.
Right.
Sorry, I'm not very verbose.
I have a question. What song were you working on?
Oh, it's called Ready for Love by India Ari. And it's really beautiful, and I really like it, and I want to do it justice someday.
Next recital, we'll hear you in the next one, right?
We should do
time
more
of
of these. I think that would be amazing, and that is necessary. And I think that's something also that I got caught in when we started this group, that I spent so much time trying to find a classical song and having a lot of trouble, especially since I live in Texas now. I graduated last year, and I don't have a music library. I don't have a place where I can go. So I was looking at music, and I was like, I really, these pieces interest me, but all I had was a title or a small song clip, and I wasn't able to, and in order to buy just that song, the only way to get it was in a whole book, or like they weren't available individually. And I found that very difficult for me because I generally don't have $50 lying around to buy a whole anthology, even though that would be ideal. I would love to have a whole, and
Right.
the fact that I don't already have an anthology of African American music and African American composers, that was never something that I felt like I needed, I think says a lot about the way, the way that we're taught, and just the way we think about what the standard is. And that, like Allison was saying, that's really harmful, that the standard is white.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good, yeah. Lauren, yeah, and then Jacob.
Sure.
Hi. Yeah, that I totally see all of that. As a percussionist, I just wanted to add that I noticed some different things as well. So something that I really tend to notice and try to stay away from is not doing enough research into either the piece you're playing or the instrument you're playing is a super big thing. And I think that I don't know exactly why I'm saying this, but that's something that I really want to change going forward. So for instance, I've been playing steel pan for about 8 years now. And my first band that I was in, we spent a lot of time talking about the history of the instrument, significant inventors, tuners, band directors, and it was really cool. And then the next band I was in, which actually happened to be at KU here, we didn't talk about any of that. And I found it really frustrating because I knew all this information that wasn't getting out there to the other percussionists. And I don't know, I feel like it's really important right now to be authentic about the art that we're making, instead of just saying, I'm playing this piece by a Black composer, I'm playing this piece by, I just really feel like it's really easy, especially for percussionists, to get away with, oh, it is authentic because I'm playing on this instrument. And I just think that we need to do better in terms of no, I know I know about the piece I'm playing, I know about the composer, I know about the history of it. I don't know. I see that a lot. I don't know if anyone has thoughts about that, but.
Absolutely. Piggybacking off of that, and Sarah, with the idea that classical music just never really, it didn't adapt the way that social issues have been adapting throughout the past decades, centuries. And I feel like with classical music going into popular music, especially in the 20th century, and with the education that we're receiving in not just KU School of Music, but probably every school of music in America, we get to level 4 history, and it's oh, surprise, actually, once we get to the 20th century, Black composers start happening, and here's all the ways that they influence your popular music. And it's they are holding that as well, first of all, they're holding that as almost a secret, and it's a thing we have to wait and get education and pay thousands of dollars to find out. Secondly, that's not even true. Black composers have been there. They have been erasing them until the 20th century, when they were more popular, more mainstream, and you were using Black artists' talent and music as a way to just become more popular, and not even giving them the credit that Black people had deserved writing the music at the time. It's in instances of classical music instances of reggae, instances of all those different genres. And with that being said, that's why it's important for us to start really, truly bringing out Black repertoire, because like it's being erased. Then the longer we wait, the more it's going to be buried and harder to find, harder to be accessible. And that's why we need to start doing it now, because we're going to lose it. We're going to lose the drive, and we need to make it become part of the standard repertoire.
Thank you. I think also listening to contemporary classical composers, Black classical composers, is important, and listening to the kinds of, it's so hard for new music to get performed, but the operas of Anthony Davis have been getting some more attention, which is exciting. But I think refusing that genre split, because it's not, I find myself sometimes accidentally arguing that classical music is more important than popular music in making this very, argument, is that, I was happy to see both classical and popular music performed here today, because that's also racist, right? It's really racist. What music counts as serious music and what music is counted as popular is also deeply racialized. And so we don't want to get to the point where we're like, oh, no, Black people have been held, in popular music and they need to be in classical music. We don't want to do that, but to be more, just to see how diverse Black music is, and to insist on that, and to see that that ideas about race in culture are right there in the production of most kinds of music, including Western classical music. And so colonialism and, exoticism and, the way that music is constructed, and high and low. So folk music, how many classical composers can you think of that used folk music in their compositions and made it into something else? So it's really, I just love the way you're thinking. You're really a very exciting group. I like hanging out with you. So
I love hanging out with you.
I wonder, does anyone have something that they haven't had a chance to say? I don't know if I can see everybody's square here. So if you have,
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
First of all, I'm really proud of all of you, and I think the performances were great. I was really happy to see instrumentalists as well. I didn't realize it wasn't going to just be singing, so I think it was wonderful. What I find even more impressive than your performances, though, is your conversation. Clearly, you guys have been talking about this. You've been motivated to do this, inspired to do this, and I applaud you, not just for your performances, but for your spirit in presenting this. And I think keep the conversation going. Certainly we're trying at school to start the conversation and keep it going, but you should all be really, really pleased with yourselves. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you, Roberta, for, because we talked when this project was kind of in the beginning stages, and your recital, the 1619 recital that you hosted back in February of this year, was a big inspiration for this. It kind of just sparked an idea within many of us students, I think, and I think it really inspired us to reach out further and learn more music by Black composers. And thank you.
Good, because we're going to do it again. We want
to.
Awesome. It might be virtual. We might have to do it virtually, but
it works.
Yeah.
That's so exciting! Yay!
Yes. Thank you, Professor Gumbel.
So, can I ask you, I mean, I'm so impressed as well, and about how proactive you were, you know, in your research and in organizing this, putting it together, spending your summer working on this. And I wanted to know what other proactive steps you might have planned. What would you like? I know that it was the School of Music faculty who were the invited audience to this recital. Do you plan on expanding the audience? Is there something in particular you would like the audience, the targeted audience, to get from the recital? What other things are you thinking of doing as a group?
So I was thinking, well, since this is going to be recorded and posted to YouTube, anyone can watch it. So it can be, the whole audience can be the whole world. But I think this is just one step for all of us and for music education and fine arts in general. And what I really hope to get from this is just not exactly like a result, but just a continuation of movements and actions and organizing things like this and using your voice as a student and as an ally and just continuing to do work no matter what. Allison, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, that it has to be a continuation. I think it would be borderline irresponsible to even, you know, have this concert and not discuss the incredible lack of Black people even on it. So if we're going to be talking and singing this music, we have to immediately start questioning, who is this even accessible to? Who even has the opportunity to be here in this space right now? And if concerts like this go without actual policy changes, so that we can start allowing access to this education in the first place. I think dealing with the syllabus and the curriculum itself is such a key point. Because we have to make this somewhere where Black people feel like they want to go, like that it's not just a continuation of the colonization, but instead is an actual place of learning and seeing learning as a way of liberation. So, and right now the current curriculum does not represent that. The library does not represent that. I'm currently working on a list of all the Black operas that I can think of and cross-referencing them with the library, and they're simply not there. And these are ones that are from 100 years ago. They're not there. How are we supposed to do this research if we aren't even given the tools to be able to be successful? And so I think in gathering, hopefully this is the beginning of a alliance in which we can start pushing for real change, because from basically this past summer, I've been talking to faculty, and there is a level of resistance, and it's been very made clear that it's going to have to come from students if we want this change. It's not going to be given to us. We're going to have to fight. And so I think making sure that we are making spaces for ourselves where we can start talking about what are the steps that we can take to really make this matter. Because if it ends right here, then this was pretty performative. So it has to be a continuation, like Tori was saying. And if you want to know more about what you can do, we are, some of the alumni have gotten together to form an organization where we're almost done with the Constitution and bylaws. And the goal of this organization is to be explicitly supporting student musicians, which is why we've changed our name to the Alumni for the Empowerment of Student Musicians.
Oh, I wasn't caught up on the new acronym.
Yeah,
type that into the comments. Like,
yeah,
how do we get in touch with you? Great. I like the title.
yeah. Maybe
That's
John can
awesome.
throw in the name and the email in there. But the real goal is just so that we can start really thinking of what we can do tactically to really start pushing for change. Even just getting 5 Black operas in the library, so that, like as Lauren said, we can start really making sure that we know the research and we know the history around how these things were able to be made. I think is going to be a key part of it.
Yeah, that's something that people look at when they're thinking of where to apply for school, right? Is what kinds of holdings does the music library have? And so that is, at Brooklyn, you know, there's a bunch of different things going on in different places right now. And I've been talking to friends of mine who teach in different places, and the students wanted a conversation with the faculty at Brooklyn College, and the question they wanted to talk about is, what would a Black affirming campus look like? And I really loved that way of putting it, because Black affirming is different even than saying anti-racist. It means, and I would think that what would a Black affirming music library look like? What would a Black affirming, curriculum look like? So yeah, that's great. Yeah, Jacob.
Well, I'd love to, as well, like talk about the future plans that we have, because, well, with work comes conversation. Like, let's say, like when we first started with Professor Gumbel's recital back in February, the students that were part of it, our discussions and conversations at the time were, how do we not have any music by Black composers, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're continuing the conversation, and we reach to this recital, and it's more like, how do you not notice how white this school is? Like, it's like the more we're working, the more we can do. Like, so we need to keep the conversation, because at this moment, I can count 1, 2 Black maybe, and on maybe with students, I would say my 2 hands. I could count on my fingers. And I think that this is a problem that should be addressed to any of the staff or faculty who are in charge of admissions or scholarships, outreach, etc. Because it's all stemming at education currently with what we're talking about, and it's our fault for not giving people that opportunity. Like, we give scholarships out to many students. Are we only giving out to white students? Like, why are there only white students? Yeah.
I'm muted again. Sarah Stockton.
I think we should let Lauren go, because she's had her hand raised actually for a long time.
It's okay. I just wanted to say something really fast. But when no, it's totally fine, Zoom. But when I first got invited to the group, like the Facebook group, and I went on and I read the the statement and your outline for what you wanted to do and accomplish. I don't know who specifically wrote that. That's here. That was just I was blown away by reading that and seeing so many concrete steps that it's that's absolutely achievable. And I don't know, it was just really, really awesome to see that. And I think that that is a great thing that to just stick with and go. And yeah.
I just wanted to say back to about why it's such the overwhelming population of white students. I really felt that, which may seem strange, when I started my freshman year at college, being from San Antonio, we're actually one of the very few cities where there's actually a majority minority here. There are more Hispanic people in San Antonio than there are white people. And I guess growing up here, I didn't really notice or realize that was special and that was not the norm. And then I got to school and I was like, there are so many white people here. I was just surprised.
Dude. Exact same thing, because I'm from Austin and it was the same way there, and it's a culture shock. And every time I go visit back, it's a culture shock. It's so interesting.
And anytime I brought it up to anyone, or I guess in my own mind, I explained it away, which I think is really not the right thing to do. I was like, well, I'm in Kansas, and so that's why, there's more white people. But and friends would say, other friends who were not white would say like, oh, I wish, why are there so many white people? And I'd be like, well, it's Kansas and that's why. And I seemed like now like that's not the appropriate reaction, that I should have also been like, wait, that it is unusual, and it isn't that just because the majority population of Kansas, I don't think that the university should necessarily have to reflect that population, because there's this long history of white people being more educated and having greater opportunities to education, and that's not right. There are more people in the whole world that are not white than there are white people, and I think that difference in in population in our colleges and our schools is really speaks to just how deep rooted and how much work needs to be done to change that.
Let's see, several hands up. TJ? TJ?
Hi, and I'm just gonna go back a little bit. I was just thinking, so during all of this, I found an Instagram account called Opera is Racist. And I think it's really just taught me a lot that, like, as to be a better ally, we need to listen to the stories that Black people in the arts have to tell, because it's so horrible what's happening in opera. And we're being educated right now, and we're going to be the future teachers, artistic directors of operas, director of opera companies, and we need to not allow what's happening now to be the future. I guess if that makes sense, something has to change with the industry that we're going into. And that starts like all the way back at what we're doing in high schools and college and everything. So yeah.
John?
Hi. Yeah, I wanted to kind of go off of what Sarah Stockton and Lauren Malloy said. First, to Sarah Stockton, Kansas City, Missouri is actually 30% African American. I think I've actually heard from at least 3 different like music teachers or people in music that, the reason why why we don't have Black students at KU is because there's no Black students in Kansas or Missouri. There's not enough Black people in the Midwest, which is ridiculous, and it's something to be angry about. And I went to KU, and I also went to Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, which is very Black, Rochester, New York. And there were maybe 2 students in the 120 vocal program in my school. That's something to be angry about. And it's because the music school system in America is set up to actively oppress Black people. And that's something that a lot of us don't want to accept. But like, I'm a part of KU AESM, and Lauren Malloy so beautifully pointed out that she was really touched by Allison's words in our statement that we put out. We sent that statement to the chancellor, the provost, and the dean, and we haven't gotten a response from any of those people. That's something to be angry about. So it's really up to us, the students, the alumni, to go to our teachers and tell them that we're angry. It's time to band together and really change, because I'm also a freelance singer, and it's not much different in the music world, in the professional opera world. There's a lot of talk about, like, if it's very hard to get a career as a singer. even harder for Black singers because they are expected to sound like our heroes like Jesse Norman, Leontine Price, and they're out there. And we don't give them a voice because we don't actively go to Kansas City, Missouri to recruit, to give money to those music programs, to build them up. And it's something to be angry about. So let's be angry together and make change.
Thank you, John, and thank you for that alarming news about not getting any response from the letter. I'm shocked by that, and I'm that's something faculty can do, is to, and I will do that. I will ask why, what was the response or something, because that's appalling. You put a lot of time and work and care into that work, and it's important work. So thank you for that. Neil, you've had your hand up for a long time.
Thank you. John, I agree. It's appalling and alarming that there's been no response from the dean, the provost, and the chancellor. I'd like to speak to 2 points. Jane, I appreciate what you said about each of us having these far-reaching tentacles. And the reality is that we have very diverse lives in terms of employment. A lot of us have side hustles and will continue to have side hustles, and will also work in many different musical fields. So I think it's really important to call for this change in whatever areas we're involved in. I'd also like to applaud all of the efforts that are being encouraged at the local level, and by that I mean at KU. But I'm also wondering and curious and would like to pose the question, what can we as students do to challenge accreditation organizations such as NASM to make change on a much higher level?
There are some initiatives. Oh, yeah, Allison.
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Tucker, you go first. Sorry.
No, you're. I'm not going to remember the names of the organizations. I'm just going to say there are organizations. So if you can think of some, if your memory is quicker than mine, I think. What is NSRF's organization?
I actually don't know.
I can't remember what it's called. But there are a few, and we can post them. I'm currently working on a Blackboard site that I'm going to ask faculty to contribute to, and we'll have a space to put initiatives that we know of. But there are a few really interesting initiatives going on right now. There's a group called Spectrum, which is working on working on music theory and music ed and music. It's like an ethnomusicology and trying to change music ed education in higher ed. And there's a bunch of things going on right now. It's quite exciting. There are a lot of things to get involved in, but I can't. Can you remember the name of anything else?
I don't know about that in particular. I know that there's a lot of movement within classical music in general. There's a lot of organizations that are suddenly cropping up. Our letter is not the only letter that existed. There's been several universities with students having response letters. There's been task forces, okay, being built, and there's even the Black Opera, the International Black Opera Alliance, which is forming mostly in LA, but is becoming a larger scale thing. So there's, I think that's so important to understand that we are part of a larger narrative that's happening right now. Like, we're not alone in noticing this finally. Now, and realizing that there's something that we can do about it. I know with KU ASDM, the organization that we're trying to build, our intent has thus far been to first build the culture so that we as a, because undergraduates are the most important people at this university. They're the only reason KU is even attempting to open this in a month, which is insane. But and we can see that when undergraduates make decisions that they're going to put their foot down, those things are those things are noticed. We can even talk about like Missouri maybe a couple of years ago when, again, issues of racism were coming up over at Mizzou. The entire football team decided, I'm not playing until this person is out of office or out of administration because they're a racist. And he was out in 3 days. They didn't even wait a week. What is KU School of Music without its performers? It's nothing. So, but you can't make these kind of big moves until we've really built a culture where everyone is absolutely 100% in. And so that's the kind of thing that we're working on right now, to have little successes. Let's see if we can get 5 Black opera scores in the library. Let's see if we can make these things happen bit by bit, so that when it comes to, hey, we want you to hire 5 Black faculty members. There's Marcus Lewis, who's a jazz performer in KC. He can't get hired here, no matter how hard certain professors are pushing for him and how qualified he is, just as qualified as anyone else. He cannot get hired. Black professors are, not only that, they leave. They stay here for a year and they leave because the culture is toxic. These are things that are going to be a big push, because even the small things, I'm glad someone brought up our list of policy demands, because one of the things on there, one of the very last things that we thought would be the simplest was, let's have you, if every professor could try to put one Black composition, or even just talk about Black history once within your entire course, that might make a difference. And we got pushback from so many people on that. And that was basically just our lowest bar to see who was willing to even have a discussion. And only 8, we sent that letter to the entire music faculty, over 60 people, and only 18 responded. Like, it's gonna be a fight. They're not gonna hand it to us. So really building, so that's why KU ACM really exists, so that we can start building those relationships with students, because it's gonna have to come from the students, not unfortunately, but they're faculty. I personally believe faculty feels like they have a lot to lose by putting their neck out, and that's 100% true. They know that it's been a history at KU being of dealing with repercussions if anyone is too vocal about wanting to really put in anti-racist policy. So this is why we've formed, because we realize it can't come from them, it's gonna have to come from us. So if you want to be more involved, please contact us. We absolutely need you every step of the way. I know so many of you already graduated, but you guys know who's even in the school. I haven't been there in 10 years. Like, we need you so desperately. And that's that on that.
I think, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I think one very easy thing that I think would be very attainable was if maybe the GTAs, I don't know if this would just have to be like by department or like the school in general, could just kind of make a pact with each other that, like, so I teach voice lessons. I think it's very easy to try and incorporate Black composers into my students' juries. I have, 6 to 10 students. I can give each of them, a song by a Black composer or it's such a thing. And I think if we do that, that might give like more impetus for the full-time faculty to see like, oh, if our GTAs who make, basically less than minimum wage can do this, we can too, with our tenured jobs.
To add to that point, Sarah, the GTAs in the voice department specifically are mostly assigned to teach music education and music therapy undergraduates. And I think that says something as well, because we can set the model for future music educators, future music therapists to do this work.
Great point.
Excellent.
May I say something as a faculty member?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, of course.
All right. First of all, that was a lovely concert. It was great to hear all of your voices. It's great to see people that I haven't seen in the longest time and sharing their art and sharing their passion. And Lauren, I remember that when we worked, it was there then, it's there now. So thank you very much. Just to the point what Neil was talking about earlier about accreditation, schools of music are governed by a higher entity. And I don't know all the details, but that's where the word standard comes from, which I really don't like that word, standard. What makes something standard when in terms of voice, we teach German, Italian, French, and English repertoire. Those are the standard languages. It excludes Spanish. It excludes any language that is not one of those 4 standard languages, Eurocentric languages. And if I want to teach one of those songs, I can teach a song by a Spanish composer, but only after I have completed what is mandated for accreditation to me by a governing board. Does that make sense? Right? So I have to cover Italian, I have to cover German, I have to cover French. And if I cover those languages, then I can start to insert other languages when it comes to accreditation. So when it comes to making big change, we have to start with change at the top because it filters all down. Because I don't know how it works with departments of music, but we're a school of music. And in order to have that label as passing accreditation, we have to have passed a checklist that is given to us by a higher entity. And if we don't pass that checklist, then we're not accredited. So we have to change there. That's where it has, we have to change at the higher level. Yes, change with have more inclusion of composers, of African American composers, Black and brown people, definitely. But we have to push hard with the higher entity.
It's really important, all the different sets of constraints and the constraints at the top. About that. Alyssa, you've had your hand up for a while, I think.
Yes. I think I'm going to basically just comment on things other people have said, so I apologize for that, but I want to say them. So going back to something Allison said, I don't know if anyone saw this, and I only knew about it because of Twitter, so unfortunately I haven't kept up with it any more than that, but I think it was like a month ago, athletic people at K-State said they weren't going to play because of a racist student, and unfortunately I don't know what became of that situation, but I just thought when I saw that on Twitter forever ago, I thought that was a really cool thing, and I don't know for sure, but I would hope that other athletic people weren't going to do it either, and we're standing with them, but I don't know that for sure, but I would hope so. But okay, next thing. This is going way back to the thing about the diversity in Kansas thing, where I don't remember who said it, but the thing where you think because there's so many white people and then the excuse people have of, oh, it's Kansas. And I honestly never thought of that before, but I think I must have had that mindset for quite a while, because it wasn't until I went to New York for the first time in high school and I saw like so many different people, and it was really like exhilarating because I'd never seen that like anywhere. And at first I didn't think about it too much, I guess, but at least in Wichita, where I'm from, I think there is diversity because I've gone to the school that my dad was at, and I've gone to the school that my mom teaches at, and like there's lots of people there. I think they are just, everyone seems to be like sectioned up. which is a whole other thing, I believe, that's bad. But yeah. So yeah, I think that just another cool thing would be if people lived in different places, but that's a whole other thing. But and then this is going way back to something of what we can do to like, because we're just college students, most of us are teachers or alumni. I'm just a college student, but so it feels like there's not that much I can do to help, but I've noticed at least this summer that just keeping the conversation going in general, especially if it makes people uncomfortable, is just really interesting, because when people are uncomfortable, then usually I'm thinking, okay, so you're the one that needed to hear this, because, you know, if you're not just automatically agreeing with me, then I think you need to hear this. And my dad is actually a police officer, so some friends and family actually have asked this summer how he's doing with everything that's been happening, and every time they ask that, I'm like, he's fine, but like, you know, at least in my family, we all agree that like he's not the one you have to be worried about right now. So just keep in mind, like, this is real, and like there is a real issue, and like he knows that and we know that, and like you should know that too. And it's just interesting like how quiet they get, because I don't think they expected that answer from someone.
Right.
So I just have I've just been really happy to do that to people, because I think they're like, oh, he's fine, and like, oh, it's hard, but instead I'm like, oh, just so you know, Black Lives Matter, and like there's systematic racism, and like there's a real problem here, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So okay, that's all I had to say.
Well, Alyssa, well, you were, just to go off of that, like you said that you're just a student, but I mean, as Allison was saying, as I believe Sarah was saying, like, we have the most power right now. And like, I know you're an undergrad, I'm an undergrad still, Clara is an undergrad, Grace is an undergrad. I don't know if I'm missing anybody. Everyone else has graduated. Oh, Christian. And so you're saying it now, like you're having these discussions in your family, and we can continue taking these into school. We can continue doing things like you're right. Like we have a power that like we're going to band together, and like we can actually challenge, like take these conversations and put them into efforts and into physical.
Yeah. John?
Muted. John?
John? There you are. Yeah, now you're muted again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so this has been something that has plagued me for my entire career as a musician. And that's the fear of like speaking out. I think that that's a real fear as like a current student, that if you say something that you're gonna get blacklisted, you're not gonna get cast anymore.
Right.
And that happens. That's a real fear. But how is change going to happen if we don't get uncomfortable? Kind of like what you were saying. I can tell you that like in the professional world, I'm a part of several young artist programs that I've been a part of, where some of the alumni have called the leaders out on Facebook. And those leaders responded poorly.
Right.
But what was really great to see was after those poor responses, there were 60 responses from alumni that were like, no, this is a real problem and this needs to change. And I'm a part of a young artist program right now where we, a young artist program of 32 people, where now in our bylaws, we are committed to having one Black faculty member out of 6 voice teachers, and 5 Black students out of the 32 students, which is 15%. So I just really want to encourage all of you guys out there that it is scary. There are some bad people out there that are going to threaten to blacklist you, to not promote you anymore. But I'm really encouraged by everyone here and everyone in the community that I don't think that that's going to be a real fear for long.
It's so exciting to me that you're not alone. I mean, it's so exciting to me. This just is really, really thrilling to see that this isn't, this isn't one student or one alum saying, this is really bothering me. You're connected. It's just absolutely beautiful. And you're in a moment when things are happening. You're in a moment where actually more people are saying Black Lives Matter than were, for years and years and years, it was very fringe. And now I'm hearing people like my parents saying Black Lives Matter. And it's like, it's a different moment. And I say, seize the moment like you're doing, do what you're doing. It's terrific. I'm really excited for you, and I'm excited for us. I mean, I just think that this is a wonderful thing. Keep doing what you're doing. Do the research, do the music, stay connected to the movement, figure out, keep thinking about those interconnections. It's so great. There's a bad habit in many disciplines, and music is one of them, to think of, to get so focused on the disciplinary object of, that we don't see the connections with our daily lives and with the webs of power that we're embedded in, and you're refusing to do that. You're saying, you're refusing to make music something separate, and that's absolutely brilliant. I'm really excited. Yeah, Kristen.
So I'm raising my hand for somebody else because I can see raised hands in the participant thing right now. Mariana,
I feel like
Sarah?
I'm really missing him. I'm trying to keep on.
Oh no, you're fine. I think only I can see that because I'm the host. I could be wrong about that. I don't know, but I got a notification.
Will you
that
please
Mariana...
call on some people? Will you call on some people?
Yeah. This is the first one and the only one. So Mariana Farah has her hand raised.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna keep my video off because I was traveling all day today. So my name is Mariana Farah. I'm the Associate Director of Choirs at KU. For those of you who I don't know, I've been at KU for 8 years. I was in sabbatical this spring, so it's really nice to hear some of the students that I haven't heard in a long time, see some of your faces. And I want to second what Professor Gumbel and Renato Mendes said. I wanted to thank all of you for this initiative and to say that, this has been a hard semester for everyone with everything that's going on. I was supposed to be doing research on an underrepresented composer in Brazil, and I was there in February, but then headed back here and got stuck in Lawrence with the pandemic. So I didn't finish my research, but I've been very moved by everything that I see on Facebook that you guys post. I want to say a few things about some of the points that you guys made. I think you raised some real important points. Just to say that I feel like a lot of us, we want to do better. I really believe that. And I think I grew up in a similar system that you guys are talking about, in the sense that I was trained in a very classical white European centered kind of training back in the days. And where I grew up, we really didn't have these conversations that we're having now. And so, you know, you just did what you were supposed to do, and you thought that that was the right thing to do. And so I'm happy that we are having these conversations now. I think there's also an issue of making sure that we record these conversations and that we record the music that we are performing. You know, just going back to my point of going to Brazil, I was so surprised to see, not surprised, but it's so hard to see that so many of the music of our Black composers in Brazil is not documented, because we know the people that are writing our history is not interested in documenting you know, these materials, and you guys are saying that here too. So documentation is a really important thing, and I think Allison made that point. We are a higher ed institution, so we should be moving this conversation forward and making sure that we are elevating this history and that we are documenting this music. It's our job to do so. And another point is just to say that we need you guys. You're absolutely right. You know, some of the responses that you're getting, we have been getting too. So we can't do this work alone. We need you. And what I want to say is that please don't hesitate to let us know how we can help you. Maybe, you know, maybe we won't be able to, but I think I can speak for most of my colleagues. We want to hear you. So talk to us and help us give you a voice, if you know, as much as you can, because this is very inspiring. I really feel that students will have more power than the faculty, and so I applaud you for your initiative, and I really want to see you guys moving this forward.
Thank you. Dr. Farah, like, also, I just want to mention that Dr. Farah extended me an invitation last year to the IDEA committee that I believe you either did start by yourself or with assistance with others, which is just showing like how we do have staff and that are on our side, that are trying to do what we're striving to do. So we shouldn't have to be worried about being outspoken and getting rejected, because we have people in our corner that are in all levels of the school. Like, and we can do more, because like it's like we haven't had any backlash that really is making us worry about our state in the school, right, with music. I haven't been told that I'm going to get kicked out for doing this. So obviously, like, we can do more. And because we're not being met with the retaliation of like, I mean, you get my point. Like, we can do more, and because there's nothing happening right now from them. I'd like to see them get even more angry. If they truly are on that side, I want them to show it, because then that just proves how they feel in this moment.
I'm hearing that you'd like them to be more proactive, as you have been, and you're modeling that. I think, yeah. Sarah?
Yeah, I love that, Jacob. You're totally on track. I also think that, you know, there are so many faculty in our corner, and there are so many faculty who are not presently in our corner, but who can very easily be turned towards that.
Right.
And unfortunately, that takes a lot of emotional labor that we as students shouldn't be having to do, especially like students of color should not be having to do that emotional labor. That's totally unfair. But I think, unfortunately, for a lot of, especially teachers of an older generation, it's going to take, you know, students really sitting them down, especially like teachers who teach in a applied setting, one-on-one, sitting them down and saying like, this is what I think, and you know, saying that in the most respectful but also most direct way possible.
Grace?
Okay. So I'm trying to remember what the name of this is, but I took I think it's English music literature class. It's either English or American, I'm not sure. But I don't know, just taking that class, it feels like that's a spot in like the curriculum where we could do a unit on like Black composers, like Black American composers. And it's kind of strange to me that there isn't one. And like, I don't know, we do units on like other small genres of American music and that. And then there was one piece we sang in class, and I think it was like a folk song. It might have been like Yankee Doodle or something like that. But I was looking at the lyrics of the later verses, and there was just such horrible, racist, awful things in that. It said the N-word in it, and it made me like sick to my stomach. Sorry, oh my God, I don't know why. Sorry.
Right.
One second. It just made me really upset that we were singing a song first that like even has that in it. And just like, why is that still in our curriculum, and why it's a part of history? But I mean, why is that a part of history right now? Like, it's not ever something that was okay. And it's not like we sang it in the song, but it wasn't really addressed that much. And like, I think about, sorry, I don't know, I'm crying. But like, I think about it often, and it just really made me upset. And that's just something I really think needs to change in that curriculum. And we need to have a unit on like American Black composers, because there are so many that just aren't anywhere in any of our curriculums. And I also think like just both of the English diction classes and English literature classes, like those need to have that representation in them. And there's no reason it shouldn't be, because there's very simple pieces that you can learn those same techniques from in those pieces, you know, like it's not like you need a piece by one of the like 5 composers that usually are represented in those classes. There's so many more you can use. Sorry for getting really emotional.
No, that's really important. It's important to address I mean, that's another part of an anti-racist proactive approach, right? Is pointing out that it's, you know, normalizing racism is unacceptable. Having to sing material like that and being told it's history, you know, it's history is unacceptable, and it has effects. So I think, and they're not equally distributed effects, and I think that it's really important to bring that up. And I thank you for sharing how that affected you, because it's important.
Right.
Let's see. I see Allison's hand. I see Alyssa's hand. Who am I missing? Am I not seeing the whole? Oh, and I see Lauren's hand.
I think you're saying.
Okay. Shall we go Allison, Alyssa, Lauren?
Sure.
Okay. I know my hand was not up. Mine came later, but yeah, thank you, Grace. Like, this stuff is very, very upsetting, and it's very frustrating. I know the last couple of days I've had a very rough time. And to Sarah's point about the emotional, the emotional labor and really getting into the weeds with our teachers, it really does have to be such a group effort. I've basically spent this entire summer spending hours on Zooms with faculty, hearing the same racist rhetoric over and over and over again, having to have these intimate conversations, trying to fight against very basic concepts like, is colorblind casting anti-racist? Obviously not. It's an incredibly racist practice that and throughout the entire process, I've been called castigating and angry and rude, and that has been my summer basically. So this stuff is very frustrating. It's very, very difficult to have these conversations, but it is going to be a vital part of it. And then I think it's also knowing that conversation. I think a big part of the journey this summer has also been realizing when to pick your battles, and knowing that conversation does not cure racism. Point blank. Conversation is not policy. Conversation is not a magical cure to fixing anything. So you getting into the weeds and fighting back and forth about colorblind casting, at some point it's like, I can't be talking about this anymore. I just realize I have to move on to the next thing. But it's there are people that are absolutely in your corner. I think a lot of them are here, but I think we can't even start to have be really, especially with some of the faculty that has been here for decades at this point. They can't tell us what anti-racism is, because y'all are the ones that actively made it racist this whole time. Like, if you knew how to make it different, then why haven't you been doing it for the last 20 years? If you knew how to do it and you just decided not to do it, then we have like, which one is it? In some of these instances, you're right. Some of these people are just absolutely not going to change. But then we can pivot our tactics to being like, okay, well they're leaving in 20 years or in 2 years. Let's start revving up for that fight. Let's start seeing how we can replace them with some Black faculty. It's sort of understanding what can we do outside of begging faculty to do something, because if they could have done it, they would have done it. If they wanted to do it, they would have done it. So it's really like, although yes, engaging in conversation can definitely be beneficial, but some of this is very purposeful, and I think it's it would be naive to think that, oh, they just don't know, they're just ignorant. And I think that's a lot of the time what racism gets blamed on is, oh, they just didn't know better. Some of these people absolutely know better. That isn't everyone. There are people that have absolutely been trying, but that is a significant amount of people. And so it's going to have to be more than just the conversation, and more than just having the individual please know better. Because Du Bois, I mean, he argued that in 1930 something, if only I could have white people listening to me. It's not just about education. It's an active decision. It's an active decision not to hire Black faculty. It's an active decision not to go recruit in Kansas City. It's an active decision not to do auditions that are remote, so that people from a lower economic level actually have the opportunity to be here. These are policy decisions that are being made. And if they didn't want to make them, they wouldn't have been made, but they have. So again, I think it's going to be really focusing on what the students can do, and what kind of tactics we can make together as a unit, versus actually continuing, not to say we shouldn't be continuing some of these conversations with some of these professors. They are awesome professors. I wouldn't be anywhere without a lot of these professors, but I would say that it's not majority, I would say. It's definitely not. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Alyssa.
Oh, you're good. And I hope this doesn't contradict what you just said, because it might sound like the opposite opinion at first, but hopefully it's not. And feel free to tell me if I'm completely wrong, because I'm learning all the time. But I think something Jacob said, but I don't remember what he said, reminded me of how it seems like it happens a lot these days, but maybe it's always been happening, that if someone ever makes a mistake or is uneducated, although some people, choose to be uneducated, but I've been uneducated before, and I mean, perhaps that was an active choice for me to be uneducated about some things, but I was also young and stupid. So hopefully getting better as I get older. But anyway, I just have heard from a lot of like friends my own age that if they have family members, especially older people, like their grandparents and stuff, sometimes will make comments that are offensive and racist, and their grandparents might not think they are because that's how it was back in the day, is usually the excuse you hear. And I hear other friends say that they like just like basically disown that part of their family, or they don't talk to that person anymore, which, you know, I have no business with what they do with their family, but I have tried with my family at least to instead like be annoyingly educative, and just like every time they say something that I think is racist, I'm like, that's wrong, this is why, you know, and like maybe they'll choose to shun me or disown me or stop being my friend, that's fine. And I know it can be exhausting because luckily not everyone in my family is a racist person, but there are some who claim to not be racist, but make Facebook posts, share things on Facebook that are totally inappropriate. And I get on there and I comment and I'm like, this is wrong. Here's why. Here's a source why this is wrong every single time. And like, it can be tiresome. And I only have like one person I'm doing that for. So I can't even imagine having your whole family. So I can't blame people for, you know, wanting to disown them or whatever. But I just, sorry, this is turning into a long rant. But I feel like I hear it so much now that if someone doesn't agree with your opinion, not that race or equal rights should be an opinion, but to some people it is, or, you know, if they argue with anything you say in general, it seems like that person's no longer your friend, no longer your family member, no longer acquaintance, period. You're never going to speak to them again. Which, not that you should be friends with racist people, but you could keep in contact with them, keep sharing things, even just being Facebook friends with them and sharing things that are like, I don't know the right word, anti-racist, sharing things that are anti-racist.
Anti-racist, and the difference between anti-racist and not racist, which is so much a part of the dialogue right now, which is a wonderful move, because one of the ways that systemic racism works is that it educates everyone to be racist. So even people of color, you know, it educates. That's how systemic racism works. It's how systemic sexism works. You know, that's how it works. Is that and so there's no way to just not be racist. You need to be anti-racist. And one thing I really liked that you said was, you know, that you are kind of inviting people. You know, if I say something that's that I need to be educated on, let me know. I feel the same way. I would much rather have somebody tell me, and I'd hope I would be, you know, open to apologizing and moving on and learning something. And sometimes it feels like for some people, being called a racist is the worst thing that can happen. So that the tragedy is being called a racist. It's not racism and all of the things that it does. So I really like that. And you know, sometimes you have to cut people out of your Facebook. but I think, you know, if you've got a dialogue going on with people, then there's not an excuse that they just haven't heard another way of thinking before. Yeah. So Lauren, sorry.
Yeah, I'll try and be really brief. But kind of going off what Alyssa just said, like I absolutely wish there was more of just an open dialogue in the School of Music about, you know, things that people have like questions about, or, you know, I wanted to share like a quick story in the hopes of maybe that when this was recorded, like someone might watch it that was involved in the production or whatever. So like, I don't know if any of you were in the wind ensemble like 2 years ago when we went to the Kennedy Center and played like a 45-minute thing. That really upset me for a lot of reasons. And I don't like really want to talk about that specifically, but really the fact that I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I felt like if I went to the director or GTA, like I was gonna be seen as hysterical because this thing was really upsetting me. But I just, instead of like having somewhere to go about it, I just like bottled it up, and I ended up just like having a meltdown on the stage of the Kennedy Center, like when we were playing it. And I don't know. I just wish that like there had been more of an open dialogue about like, because even even if the piece had been a piece that I felt really positively about, I still would have wanted to have a space for a conversation about it. Why does this piece mean a lot to me? Why is this a great thing that the Wind Ensemble is doing, premiering this piece? Why is it important that we are doing this and on the Kennedy Center stage? And we're, you know, like, I don't know, yeah, I just wanted to say that. I don't know your personal opinions about it. It really upset me. Yeah, I don't know. Grace's story made me think of it, and I'm just really sorry that you people that had to go through that, because it's not a good time. So
Yeah, just going off of what you just said about the Wind Ensemble piece, it was called Freedom from Fear by Kevin Walczek, and is that how you say it?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Said it. I don't know.
Well, basically, he's a white man who wrote this. I mean, it was a great piece, but it was about like the experiences of immigrants and escaping to freedom. And like I remember, because I went on that trip as an understudy for one of the vocalists, and I just remember, like, I wasn't directly involved in the music making, but I did have a lot of conversations with people who were, about the conversations that the composer Kevin talked to them about, that he would say like his inspiration behind writing, and like he had some really good points, but also, I don't know, I just like, yeah, the main conversation was like, why is this white man writing about these people's experiences? Like he knows.
Yeah.
And why are we performing that? Like,
yeah, I felt like there
know?
wasn't a lot. I felt the piece had a lot of exoticism in it. Like, from the sound standpoint, I was playing a lot of things that were straight up exoticism. The instruments were not at all. We had a huge percussion setup. None of the instruments were accurate. None of the music was accurate to the part of the world we were talking about. And yeah, as someone who like did grow up in Texas, and a lot of friends with families who were immigrants, or they were immigrants themselves, it was just really hard. And I think he did have some great points. You know, I think he talked about his son and how his son was adopted, and, you know, like, I'm sure that he has some really amazing stories. But, you know, for instance, there was pictures of dead children in the program. Like, there was
no trigger warnings.
No trigger warnings at all. There was pictures of children who had tried to cross over to America and they had died. And I just felt like the fact that KU was like putting on this thing and like printing these programs and like going to the Kennedy Center, it was just really upsetting to me. But yeah, no, I thought about for like 6 months, like, do I write a letter to this guy? Do I write a letter to the director? I just had no idea who to go to. And, you know, if it had been a great piece, I would have wanted to talk about that too. So I just feel like, you know, they go hand in hand. We should talk about these things regardless. Yeah, this was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would have wanted to talk about it.
Is this something, Allison, that the organization, it's going to take me a little while to learn the new acronym, but you know, could be brought to the Alumni Empowerment Organization, alumni student? Yeah.
Absolutely. That is absolutely why we even exist at all, because we want to know about that. Like over the summer, one of our big initiatives that we've been trying to do is to create an archive of moments like this, because this happened 2 years ago, but 10 years ago they put us in an opera in Germany where they were blatantly doing blackface. Like this is a history of this. This has been going on forever. And how many times do we have to be told, okay, you guys are singers, someone could just come up, or I know that's such a singer, positionality, but you all better be pleasant because someone would come up behind you and do your job for free. You know, you better be quiet or else and pleasant, and you better accept this kind of sexual misconduct or this or that, or else we'll just replace you or you'll get blacklisted or blah, 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 blah. There are no safe spaces where you can even talk to sometimes you can't even talk to your own professors, who often feel like more than just teachers. They're parental figures almost. And sometimes you feel like you can't even talk to them, because I've read these testimonies. I've read the stories and of people feeling like they can't go to their professors, or going to their professors and their professors suggesting, why don't you keep that to yourself? That's not what we're here to do. We are here to absolutely listen to every story so that when stuff like that happens, there are repercussions. Our entire goal is to start actively holding this, the KU School of Music accountable for their actions. Having pictures of dead children in your programs is not normal. That is not okay under any circumstances. In what world? What has to actually run through your mind to be like, this is an okay situation? What runs through your mind when you send kids to Germany and then there's blackface going on? What is running through your mind when you story after story, when you say that we don't have time for when you're using derogatory terms for transgender people publicly? Like what is happening here? It's not all right. And now that I've been in an apartment, because after my undergraduate, I went into my master's in African American Studies, and I realized, oh my God, that isn't normal, because we're so indoctrinated to think that this is all normal. And it wasn't until I went into a different department and was like, oh, this is like a healthy relationship with your professor. Oh, like this is what that looks like. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is what normal boundaries look like. Oh, look at that. Like it's so we are absolutely dedicated to making sure we want the communication, so that if something like this happens, everyone feels like they can immediately turn around, like, I'm going to call Allison, I'm going to call John, I'm going to call these people because I know they're going to care. We can help you craft a letter. We can help make sure that there's more than one signature on that letter. We can make sure that this is publicly known and that this is not going to be appropriate anymore. That's exactly the kind of thing we deal with.
It's so funny because I didn't even literally during this call was when I made the connection that like, oh, I should talk to these people about that thing. You know, like it didn't even cross my mind, and I've been a part of the group, I guess, like the Facebook group for like a few weeks now, and it just crossed my mind.
It's funny how like even going back in my own history, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that time that someone called me Aunt Jemima at school. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Like I just remembered it literally 4 hours ago. I was like, oh yeah, that sucks. Like, but it's amazing how these tiny things all end up building up until you're like, you know what, I think I'm going to quit music, because that's what ends up really happening. And that's some of the saddest testimonials that we've gotten is, I can't even pick up my instrument anymore. I can't even sing anymore. I haven't sung publicly for years. I don't want to, because this is the kind of trauma that's happening. And we can't really fix any of these problems if faculty and administration don't even have to admit that there's been a problem. And that's what we're here to do, is to make sure that we are holding people accountable. Like, this is what you did. And we know because there are 6 people there that saw it. Because right now there's not even fear. There's just blatantly, let's do this, because there are no repercussions. And we're not going to take that anymore.
Right. I don't know, that it seems like almost that would be a great place for us to close this event and start looking forward to the next one. I really, again, just so impressed with you all, and I'm so thrilled for the time that we've spent tonight, and I look forward to the next time. I'm so glad that you have each other. It's really powerful, and it might seem like it's, I mean, it has taken a long time, but look how you know, really how quickly you pulled this together. I know it had so much, there was so much work, but it's you are really something. Excellent work. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tucker. It's been a real pleasure to have you. Like, seriously, thank you. And thank you, Allison, for connecting her to this project, and everyone for being involved. This has just been awesome, and it's been really great. I really hope that we can do more things like this soon.
Thank you so much. And faculty who are there, and I see faculty names. I'm going to be in touch soon. Putting together this resource Blackboard site, so I'm going to be just reaching out for people to all send in your favorite resources so that we can pull them together. Because sometimes, you know, with faculty, it takes us a long time to find stuff that we haven't been introduced to also. So that's something else that will be happening, but totally. And why is it happening now? It's happening now because of the work that you've all been doing. So thank you very much for the push.
Thank you to everyone. This was such a good concert. I'm so proud to have participated, and we will be doing a town hall meeting through the Facebook group in the next week or two. So make sure you keep look out for that. And I have my email and my and the KU AACM email in the chat. So please email me if you want to be involved.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Tori.
Everybody.
We're all wonderful. Round of applause.
Bye.